Hey guys, what's up, Zyflin here, and in today's video we are going to be talking about what type of game Warframe is, or what I wish I knew before getting into Warframe. And I don't mean like the top tips and tricks for progressing through Warframe or anything like that, but simply what type of game is Warframe really? Because on the surface it looks like a cool space ninja looter shooter where these warframes have magic abilities and it looks really fast paced and fun and cool. And for the most part, it is that, right? You can go through these missions really quickly, just kill a bunch of bad guys. You can live that power fantasy and stuff like that. But at its core, what type of game is Warframe really? So Warframe is a free-to-play space ninja looter shooter hack and slash grinding game. That would be my elevator pitch for it, where you're basically just playing more or less the same things over and over and over again to grind up resources and crafting materials and stuff like that to make your Warframe as powerful as possible. But there isn't really any endgame content. So this game, at its core, it's about grinding. It's about collecting a lot of items, resources, material. It's also about waiting for crafting times, managing your inventory, so to speak, right? Making sure that you have certain items such as forma, crafting every single day, getting all dressed up and know where to go, because there's no end game content as it is right now, right? Technically, you could call the likes of like maybe Steel Path end game, but whenever I think of end game content in a video game, I think of an activity which you do to get some like kind of rare reward at the end, and we don't really have that in Warframe right now. So Warframe is more or less a free-to-play collecting game which has some pretty cool gameplay, right? Like the fast-pacedness of it, you know, the power fantasy part, and also a lot of like different interesting Warframe kits with different abilities and stuff like that. So the game is essentially just you playing to collect these resources and collecting relics to open these relics to get the, you know, the prime warframes and the prime weapons, which you can get for totally free. The majority of stuff in Warframe, anything that affects gameplay in a meaningful way, you can get for 110% free. The only things that you can't get for free in some scenarios are cosmetics. So for example, you can see the fancy looking armor on my shoulders, right? So the armor you have to buy for in-game money, and there's some 10th-gen skins which are basically skins for Warframes which are made by people in the community, and then DE sort of like hand select them and they get added into the game, and you can only purchase those for IRL money as well. We do have an in-game currency called Platinum which you can trade for between players. So what you would do is you would go into a Fisher mission, you would open up a relic in this Fisher mission, and then you would come out with hopefully a part of a prime Warframer weapon, right? You can take that part, or you can sell that to another player. You can use the in-game trading chat, or you can use a website such as Warframe.market to sort of initiate a trade. And essentially, you can get the premium currency that way, and you can buy some prime, not prime cosmetics, but just cosmetics in general with that premium currency, right? But of course, there are some exclusive cosmetics, such as the ones that we're talking about, the prime cosmetics, which you have to buy for money. The same with 10th-gen skins and stuff like that. Now, you do sort of have to have the premium currency to progress a little bit in the collector side of the game, right? So you are limited on the amount of Warframes and weapons you can have in your inventory by slots, right? So slots you purchase for, I think, about 12 or 20 platinum a pop, depending on the slots that you're going for, right? So if we were to take a look at weapon slots, right? So 12 platinum for 2 slots, which isn't a lot of platinum. 110%, that is not a lot of platinum. Or you could type in Warframe slots, if I could spell. A Warframe slots is 20 platinum for 1. And you can get a lot of platinum quite easily via trading in-game or using Warframe.market. Or, of course, you can buy it for your IRL money and stuff like that, right? So you can get everything in this game, bar cosmetics, for totally free. Just know that this game is a grinding game, right? That is the core of it. Once you have got everything in the game, you're gonna hit that PvE wall, and a lot of that, you know, getting everything in the game is just repeating some of the same stuff over and over and over again. So for example, to get a Warframe, you're going to have to kill the same boss over and over and over again until you have all of the parts for that Warframe. Then you have to go and collect some resources, which may or may not be on the same planet and stuff like that. And then you have to take all of those resources, craft it in your foundry. So parts take 12 hours to craft. You could have all 3 of the parts crafted at the one time, so 12 hours. And on top of that, you have to combine those parts into the Warframe, which is going to take you 3 days. So you're talking about 4 days to craft the Warframe, and then like let's say 12 or 24 hours to craft the weapon, depending on the type of weapon, right? The crafting time just varies on the type of equipment that you're building. So I would say for anyone that is sort of interested in Warframe, it follows the hook, habit, hobby method of game design. So it does something to hook you. So that would be the cool space ninja aspect of it and the power fantasy. And then it turns it into the habit with the, okay, come back daily for your login reward, or come back for your thing to be crafted. And then because you've invested so much time, it turns into a hobby, which makes it easier for you to sort of like justify spending money or coming back to it type of thing. But it is a pretty fun game, don't get me wrong. As long as you don't force yourself to play it. It's very RNG heavy, right? So you're gonna, you know, have periods where you're playing and you're trying to get something and it just won't drop for you. That could be quite frustrating. And whenever the game gets frustrating, just take a break from it. You know, if you try to force playing it, you're not gonna enjoy it, and you know, it's just gonna degrade your overall experience and stuff like that. So it's a game about grinding. All you basically do is collect items. You optimize your builds. So there are, you know, some very interesting builds whenever it comes to the modding section of your Warframes and weapons. For somebody like me who's invested a ton of time in the Warframe, this is kind of standard, right? Like I understand this like in and out pretty much, right? So you have efficiency, which is affecting the amount of energy it costs to cast an ability, the range, which is how far an ability can reach, a duration stat, which is basically how long a ability is going to last if it's like a timed ability. And then we have strength, which increases the effectiveness of an ability and stuff like that. And of course you have your like your health stat, you've got your armor stat, you've got your shield stat, sprint speed stat, etc., etc. And you've got a few other things which are like, you know, on kill effects and stuff like that. Just these different types of bonuses which you can equip to your Warframes and weapons. It's pretty cool to sort of, you know, tweak and mess around with. If you're somebody who likes optimizing builds, there are entire communities based around doing just that for Warframe, and there's definitely some activities in the game, not many, but some activities in the game where you can really take that min-maxing to the next level and, you know, do some crazy stuff. And it's all complemented by a really decent story. Now, I say decent because I'm not too invested in the storyline of Warframe, for the simple fact that it takes the developers a very long time to release story-related content, or at least mainline story-related content. Like, it takes them like a year to release like a very short segment for the main story of Warframe, if that makes sense. We do have a main story in the game. It occurs quite deep into the star chart. You have to get to Uranus before it starts to sort of like kick up a little bit. But we do get little tidbits of like sort of like offbeat story content, which is just kind of world and atmosphere building, if that makes any sense. So, you know, the game is pretty all right for a free-to-play game. You know, if you don't mind investing some time, I wouldn't necessarily recommend spending money on Warframe if you're not like 110% in love with it. But if you are in love with the game and this is like your favorite game of all time, you can definitely spend money on it in the form of like buying Prime accessories, right? Which is the exclusive cosmetics that we talked about, the fancy looking cosmetics, which my Warframe is currently decked out with, as you can see. So, you know, you can get everything in this game for free. It's pretty fun. You know, you min-max your builds. There's some cool activities, but it is about repeating those activities to get everything that you need to min-max your character or characters, your weapons, etc. And they've got some pretty low level and okay storytelling story content in the game as well. So that is basically Warframe summed up in one video for someone who has never played it before. That's just sort of my take on what the game is. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Like it if you liked it, subscribe for more Warframe content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.